The United States has begun withdrawing non-essential diplomatic personnel and military families from several locations across the Middle East amid rising regional tensions, particularly involving Iran, U.S. officials confirmed Wednesday. The coordinated departures were initiated by both the State and Defense Departments, following what officials described as developing tension in the Middle East. While the specific triggers for the move remain unclear, the decision reflects growing concern over regional instability and the safety of American personnel. They are being moved out because it could be a dangerous place, and we'll see what happens, President Donald Trump told reporters Wednesday evening upon arriving at an event at the Kennedy Center. We've given notice to move out, and we'll see what happens. A senior defense official said U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, is closely monitoring the evolving security situation. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has authorized the voluntary departure of military dependents from installations across the region. The safety and security of our service members and their families remains our highest priority, the official said. As a result of the heightened security concerns, General Michael Kurilla, CENTCOM commander, has postponed scheduled testimony before a Senate committee originally set for Thursday. The State Department, meanwhile, is preparing to order the departure of non-essential personnel from U.S. embassies in Iraq, Bahrain, and Kuwait, as well as the U.S. consulate in Erbil, according to sources familiar with the matter. An Iraqi government official pushed back on the move, stating the U.S. personnel changes are not related to Iraq's own security posture. In a statement, a State Department spokesperson said, President Trump is committed to keeping Americans safe, both at home and abroad. In keeping with that commitment, we are constantly assessing the appropriate personnel posture at all our embassies. Based on our latest analysis, we decided to reduce the footprint of our mission in Iraq. The State Department updated its travel advisory later Wednesday, confirming that the departure of non-emergency U.S. government personnel had been ordered due to heightened regional tensions. The developments come amid renewed uncertainty around nuclear negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. President Trump told the New York Post in a podcast released earlier Wednesday that he has grown less confident in reaching a new agreement with Tehran to curb its nuclear ambitions. I'm getting more and more less confident about it, Trump said. They seem to be delaying, and I think that's a shame. The president said his instincts tell him a deal is becoming increasingly unlikely. Further complicating the situation, Trump reportedly urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to tone down public talk of military action against Iran. The two leaders spoke by phone Monday, with Trump later describing the call as very smooth, despite escalating speculation over potential Israeli military plans. CNN reported last month that U.S. intelligence agencies had observed Israeli preparations for a possible strike on Iranian nuclear facilities, including the movement of munitions and military exercises. While officials emphasize that no final decision by Israel appeared to have been made, the intelligence has sparked concern in Washington over the potential for a broader conflict. Iran has responded with sharp warnings. On Wednesday, Iranian Defense Minister Brigadier General Aziz Neirzadeh declared that if nuclear talks fail and conflict erupts, U.S. forces will be forced to exit the region. In that case, the U.S. will have no choice but to leave the region, as all of its bases are within the reach of Iranian military, Neirzadeh said, according to Iran's state-run IRNA news agency. They will not hesitate to target all of them in their host countries. The latest developments highlight the fragile state of U.S.-Iran relations and the potential for rapid escalation in a region already on edge. As Washington prepares for key international summits, including the upcoming NATO and G7 meetings, the Middle East remains a critical and volatile flashpoint for American foreign policy. Israeli gunfire. Airstrikes kill 120 Palestinians in Gaza, including dozens at aid sites. More than 120 Palestinians have been killed across the Gaza Strip in the past 24 hours amid continued Israeli military operations, according to Gaza's health ministry and local medical sources. Among the dead are at least 57 civilians reportedly shot while trying to access humanitarian aid in Israeli-controlled zones. The latest wave of violence pushes the overall Palestinian death toll past 55,000 since Israel's offensive began last year, marking one of the deadliest days in the war in recent months. Gaza health authorities say more than 360 others were injured in the attacks, which included both airstrikes and live fire directed at aid distribution points in Rafah and the Netzrim corridor. These zones are administered under the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, a controversial aid initiative backed by both the United States and Israel. Despite widespread reports of chaos and fatalities, Israel's foreign ministry called the GHF program a dramatic success, citing its ability to deliver food to civilians in limited and heavily monitored areas. Human rights organizations and aid groups have strongly rejected this characterization, describing conditions as catastrophic and the aid sites as human slaughterhouses. Since GHF operations began on May 27th, more than 220 Palestinians have reportedly been killed while attempting to collect aid. The majority of those killed in the latest incident were gathered in the Netzrim corridor, where the Israeli military has acknowledged troops fired what described as warning shots. Palestinian officials and observers on the ground, however, dispute that description, accusing Israeli forces of deliberately targeting starving civilians. In a statement Thursday, Gaza's government media office accused Israel of perpetuating a policy of starvation and said the military was deliberately creating chaos in the Gaza Strip by targeting and killing people seeking food. Graphic images and videos shared online and by local media show bodies scattered around aid distribution points, many of them appearing to be unarmed civilians, including women and children. Footage has sparked outrage across the Arab world and growing condemnation from international humanitarian organizations. While Israel insists it is targeting Hamas militants and infrastructure in Gaza, critics say the scale of civilian suffering, particularly among displaced and starving populations, underscores the urgent need for a ceasefire and expanded humanitarian access. The United Nations and multiple aid agencies have called for an immediate investigation into the killings at the aid sites and demanded unrestricted access to provide food, medical aid, and protection for Gaza civilians. The latest escalation comes as regional tensions remain high, with ongoing fighting, a breakdown in ceasefire talks, and increasing concerns over humanitarian collapse in Gaza.